And then, of course, that brings us to the giant story where we are all waiting for the big shoes to fall. The reality of reporters and suspicions are, of course, heightened now because of what's going on in the never-ending, will it ever end, federal corruption probe of Cuyahoga County government. The main targets, public official number 1 and public official number 2, and the target of still another probe that's not resolved yet, former Sheriff Gerald McFall. All of them were endorsed numerous times by the plain dealer and covered very favorably by most of the media, including more often than not myself. So reporters now looking extra hard, looking under every rock at every public official because that they feel, hey, I was snookered once about things that I perhaps should have seen and didn't see, and so now I have to really be extra suspicious, extra vigilant, and in some cases maybe extra cynical. Now against that backdrop, you have the mixed blessing of the new media, the web and social media that has provided so many new reporters and commentators, so many new sources for information, misinformation, skewed or slanted information and opinions. Present exception here, Jill Simon's excellent website. But there are so many sites now that combine fact and opinions, teabaggers to progressives running the gamut. So in this environment where there is so much noise amid the news, tweets getting in the way of the truth, everyone, reporters, office holders, and news consumers need to follow some common sense rules. So let's talk about reporters. And of course, the guiding principle there, integrity. What must they do to seek the best version of the truth that they can possibly get? Well, I'll just talk about some basics for what I try to do in my job. Rule number 1, do not invent things in a story. Do not simulate or stage things. Do not fudge things to spice up the story or make it livelier or better. Even something as minor as, an added siren sound effect. My motto is, if people know that you cut corners on the small stuff, they're really not going to be have too much confidence in how you cover the big stuff. Next, be transparent. We are seeking truth, so we must be truthful with viewers and readers about sources and their biases and their credentials and their credibility, so viewers can weigh and judge the information that's coming to them through those sources. And next, be honest with your sources. Do not bluff them if you're doing an interview. Make sure they know what the story is about and where it's likely to go. And do as much as your own independent, individual research as possible. Lots of times in this new media world where it's more important to be first and fast than right, a lot of news organizations will put a story out with a lot of weasel words, and other stations and papers will suddenly piggyback on that story and broadcast or print it as if it's gospel. And again, it's best to do your own work. The one example that I can think of in kind of recent history, the Plain Dealer and 3 other television stations in town reported the tragic news that Congressman Stephanie Tubbs Jones had died about 6 hours before she died. There was one station that didn't do that, and I'll let you make a wild guess which one that was. Again, but it goes back to relying on your reporters and their sources and having confidence in them. Finally, I try to keep an open mind, be skeptical and not cynical, try to ask the extra question, and know what I don't know. Does that make sense? Be disciplined and don't push the story farther than the facts warrant. And always have what I call everybody's built-in BS detector in operation. If something sounds too outrageous or too preposterous or outlandish, trust your instincts, you'll be right more often than not. And now, a few constructive suggestions for office holders. How you can have a trusting and more productive relationship with the media. Again, nothing profound or magic here, just some common sense. First of all, establish a rapport and a relationship with the reporter. If you have an idea for a story or report about something in your community, a problem, an achievement, an interesting person, or anything at all, take the initiative and reach out to the media. As I said, try to establish some kind of a connection with an actual living, breathing person in a news organization. That's the best way to get something covered. Just sending out emailed advisories, faxed advisories into the blizzard of information we get every day, that kind of perfunctory stuff is very often likely to not get read, and not be fully understood the significance of it. So if you can take enough time to actually, what a concept, pick up a phone, call a newsroom, ask to call or talk to a reporter, and see if you can actually get somebody to buy into what you're talking about. Now here's the brief self-serving timeout. I have a stack of business cards here. Please take one on your way out. Second of all, if a reporter wants to talk to you about something controversial, do not duck them. It eliminates, say that fast 10 times, it eliminates the chance to get your side of the story out. And if there's only 1 minute and 30 being spent on the story and you don't talk, well, that's twice as much for the other guy. And you don't want to be a victim of tennis shoe journalism with a reporter chasing you down the street for a no comment. Looks bad. Give them something, get your version out before somebody else does. Second, do not say no comment. That's another way of looking like you're guilty or hiding something, even if you're not. Some statement of concern or a brief acknowledgement is better than a stiff arm and a no comment. And finally, again, be honest. Never lie to a reporter. You don't have to say every single thing about the subject, but please make sure that everything you tell the reporter is the truth. Once you're dishonest, most reporters are like me, once burned, never trust them again. So, and finally, I'd probably be flogged by my reporter colleagues, if they heard me say this, but protect your interest. If you're doing an on-camera interview, make sure that you have an audio recording to have just in case there's some dispute or disagreement about how something got edited or what in fact you really said. All right, let me take a quick show of hands survey. How many of you have had a bad experience or feel like you've ever been burned by a reporter? All right. How many of you really go out of your way to have your thoughts or opinions included in the Sun paper stories or whatever community newspaper stories about your hometowns? How many of you really try to avoid getting your name and opinion in the media at all? All right. Well, they say the fish can't get in trouble if he doesn't open his mouth, right? How many of you think Greater Cleveland's news media in general is more interested in selling newspapers or in TV's case doing juicy, lurid, sweeps period, sensational, gee-whizzy stories to get ratings? How many think they're more interested in that or in trying to educate the public and improve the community? All right, let's go with selling more newspapers and improving ratings. Cynics. And how many of you think that we have the noble objective of trying to educate and improve the community? All right. We're a small cult here, I guess. All right. Well, having said that, about all I can say is, trust me. Let me end with a joke. They always say you should try to end one of these presentations with a joke. Frankly, I think it's kind of lame, but okay. Survey said that half of the people in Northeast Ohio do not read newspapers or watch television. And about half the people in Northeast Ohio don't vote. Let's hope it's the same half. All right.